All right. I'm not going to do my Matthew McConaughey impersonation on that, but we'll just go one all right. So, welcome back from the break. Um, you're in for a treat now because we're going to start talking about um, something that's a little near and dear to my heart. My title should give it away. I'm the Associate Vice President for Innovation and Economic Development. So all of this research and the R&D, when it comes out on the street and when the street has talked to us, the application and the implementation is going to result in more investment, more jobs, more expansion, wealth creation for your economies. So that's where I get excited about these things. So, and you've heard a lot of reference to the regionalism of where we are. Taylor's talked about it multiple times. We all live it here in South Texas, North Mexico. It's the same economy. It's this mega MSA. And so, you know, what is good for us is good for both sides of the border. Lots of the policies that are talked about, the nearshoring, reshoring, friendshoring, whatever kind of shoring you want to talk about, is nothing new. It's been going on for since there were two countries living side by side. We've shored together for a long time. So today's panel is talking about what kind of where the last one left off, where it's like, how do you put these things into application in the economy? So we're looking at, the speakers here today bring a wealth of experience and, and knowledge on this. Our moderator today is Glenn Hammer. You can read his blog on Hammer Time. I'm very clever young man. The CEO of Texas Association of Businesses, the Texas State Chamber of Commerce, basically. And it's a bipartisan organization that works to protect Texas's pro-business climate. So he will be leading this. And then he's joined by, in order here, Luis Rodriguez, the president and CEO of the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, a position he's held since early 2024. Interesting, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was founded in 1929, the country's first Hispanic chamber. Marina Alderete Gavito, our District 7 San Antonio councilwoman. She's had that position for almost 2 years. We're getting close to 2. Quite experienced in the digital ecosystem here in San Antonio, executive director of the San Antonio Digital Connect, implementing the San Antonio Digital Plan, some of the other things you've heard about that today. So prior focused on tech and innovation at Rackspace, USAA, a couple names that resonate here in the San Antonio community. And the founding executive director of TechBlock, a industry organization that advocacy and awareness for technology development and implementation. And Carlos Serna, he's pinch hitting today for Secretary Emmanuel Lu, who had some other emergency issues pop up. Carlos is from the neighbor state of Nuevo León, and Monterey is home for him. And interesting thing is Monterey is closer to us than Dallas. Mm-hmm. So you can, in many ways, I was speaking geographically, but there are many other ways. But so, you know, let that sink in for a minute, just kind of the relationship that we have. And the judge, those of you who heard him talk last night, talked about the diamond, this Texas Triangle business they talk about, which is a thing. But, you know, here we are, San Antonio at the top, Monterey at the other end, and everything that happens between us. So this is what I've asked the panel to chew on this morning. And so I welcome them to the stage, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. So in English or Spanish, como quieran.
Well, muchas gracias. My 1,600-day Duolingo streak only takes me so far, so I hope the audience will forgive me if we do this one in English. Rod, I want to thank you and USTA for putting on this really important event. I could tell you have a number of distinguished guests here. Always fantastic to have the Dallas Fed, my favorite Fed in the house, my good friend AJ Rodriguez, who does a great job for 2036, and my colleague Drew Sheberly, who does stuff for the Texas Chamber as well as the Texas Chamber of Commerce execs, and is an expert on all things defense, cyber, space, AI, and semiconductors. And it also knows, in a different city, all the good nightlife places in Austin. I'm going to first start out by saying this is a great panel in that we try to, at the state chamber, make the case that trade is good. The bilateral relationship with Mexico is very important for the success of the economy of Texas. And I'm going to say trilateral because we look at the trade agreement, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, as one of the engines that has propelled Texas to be the leading economy in the country. Not hyperbole. We've added more jobs. So I just want to set the stage a little bit. We've added more jobs than any other state for the last several years. We've added more people than any other state for the last several years. So we have the healthiest economy in the country. But we're really now, thanks to how dynamic and diverse our economy is, no one part of the economy now in Texas represents over 10% of our GDP. That's pretty amazing. So, and Judy, you could correct me, the Dallas Fed, if I'm wrong in any of these economic facts. So $2.5 trillion economy and growing. We're the 8th largest economy in the world. Our economy has a greater GDP than Russia or Italy. And by the end of the year, we'll probably pass France and enter the G7 in terms of economy. So you could argue that we have the strongest economy in the world. But now, and I see Brad from the Great Space Commission here, but now that SpaceX is headquartered in Texas, I would say we have the best economy in the galaxy. And we want to keep that way, and trade is a big part of that. So where I want to start is when we're talking about Texas's strategic economic plan. And I would encourage all of those that are interested. Governor Abbott and his outstanding team, led by Adriana Cruz, just released the latest 5-year blueprint for the Texas economy. I think it's called Bigger, Bolder Texas, something like that, Drew. It's worth reading because it really gets into a lot of the different sectors that are very important to San Antonio. And the governors, with my colleague from the NFIB, Jeff Burdett, we just also released something from the Small Business Freedom Council as well to reduce the regulatory and tax burden on the great small businesses and entrepreneurs in Texas. I set this stage because even though we're number one, we're not stopping. And I'd like to, if it's all right with the panel, I'm going to first ask all of you just for a couple of minutes to talk about your vision to keep this region, Texas, and this region on top. And Carlos, we're really fortunate to have you here today. I'm just going to say before we start, you have a terrific governor in Governor Garcia. He's very dynamic, speaks Texas very well, and you make this a binational panel as well. But I'm gonna start with my friend Luis on your vision, what the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber is doing, and then we'll let the conversation just flow.
Well, thanks, Glenn, and I'm so excited to be here with Carlos. As you all know, Monterrey, Nuevo León is one of our sister city in the city of San Antonio. So the state of Nuevo León is very important to San Antonio, especially from a business and academia perspective, and also delicious food as well. And we're so fortunate to have Councilwoman Marina, a dear friend whom I've known for many years, back in her tech days, and now she's doing the great work of a servant leader. So Marina, thank you, council member, for all the work you're doing. And she's up for re-election as well, District 7.
Thank you.
Wonderful leader in our city. From your San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, just to give you a bird's eye view of just how magnificent this chamber is in the city of San Antonio, because we were founded in 1929, as it was mentioned earlier, as La Cámara Mexicana de Comercio in San Antonio. We were founded by the consul back in 1929, and we are the oldest, the first, and the longest standing Hispanic organization in the U.S. Now there's over 300 Hispanic chambers of commerces throughout the United States and over 15 in the state of Texas. As we talk about GDP, the importance of Hispanics, the Hispanic GDP in the US is the seventh largest GDP at $3.13 trillion, according to the US Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as well. And trade is important to us. Our chairman, Juan Antonio Flores, is here with Port San Antonio. And Elisa as well. We just got back from a trade mission to Colombia as we look to expand. And also, we just got back from our SA to DC trip last week, where we met with the ambassador of Mexico on Tuesday of all days of last week, where the ambassador canceled all of his meetings with the exception of our meeting with the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because we, for the longest time, have said, and from our federal and state legislative agenda, we're against tariffs because, as you know, our trade between Mexico and San Antonio, let alone Texas, is very, very strong. It's very, very important, and it creates a lot of positive jobs here in San Antonio. I know we could go into detail later with what it does for Toyota and the tier 1 suppliers to Toyota Motor Manufacturing, and the importance of having a strong relationship with Mexico as well. So from an international perspective, it's one of our 5 pillars that we aim to continue to strengthen and do well. And we are planning on going to Mexico. I know our consul, Ruben Minuti, is here as well. He's an ally and a friend and a partner when it comes to all things Mexico. So thank you, Consul, for your leadership and your partnership.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning tariffs right off the jump, because I think that's important, and we'll definitely dig into that later. Councilwoman, I love your background, elected official. You've done a ton in tech. If you can maybe, one of the areas we've been working on, Texas leads in so many things, but one of the things we do need to do some work on is on the venture capital space. Would love your vision on the entrepreneurial side, or any other place you want to go, but just with your background, I thought some comments in that area would be enlightening to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, thank y'all so much for having me. I'm honored to be sitting on a panel with Luis and Carlos. Yeah, so prior to me serving on council, I did work at Rackspace for 7 years. I also worked on the innovation team at USAA. I was the founding executive director of TechBlock, and what TechBlock did was we pulled the tech community together. At that time, it was to advocate for rideshare. Remember when cities were kicking out Uber and Lyft? We didn't want that. We wanted to bring rideshare back to San Antonio. But uniting the tech community is important, because the tech community has a voice. One of the things that I think that we're seeing, to your earlier question, that's so important is investing in our workforce. I remember being at St. Mary's University and taking Visual Basic, and I was the only female in that programming class, and so making sure that females and males, have access to this. I know UTSA does a wonderful job. I think that they have 1,100 courses in high demand fields like AI, coding, and others. And so investing in that workforce is so important for cities to do. Attracting that, we call them that creative class of workers. When you think of a person in the tech field, they're going to need a lot of supporting roles around them, right? They're going to need the dry cleaners. They're going to need the car washes. They're going to need all these service industries for that one tech worker, right? There was a book that when I was on TechBlock, we actually gave it to the mayor and city council. It's called The New Economy of Jobs. And it talked about just that, right? One creative class worker, one tech worker brings a whole service industry, 4 or 5 jobs to that city. And so how can San Antonio attract that creative class is extremely important. 1, we have to have great schools. 2, we have to have great jobs, great employers like USAA and like Rackspace, like Port San Antonio. I see Ben with Accenture here. I saw him earlier. But also to all of our small businesses in the cybersecurity space and others, is being around startups is exciting. That energy, having co-working spaces like Geekdom and others, the energy there is exciting and it's contagious. And so fostering that is extremely important. And then from the nuts and bolts of it, prior to serving on council, I was the executive director of an organization called SA Digital Connects, and we worked with AJ in Texas 2036. And that's just about providing internet access to all residents in San Antonio. It's embarrassing how many residents on the south side, east side, and west side of San Antonio still don't have internet access. And we have to make that right. So from a city perspective, that's hugely important that we need to make that right. And then also too, I'll close with, like, as a city councilwoman, I need to make sure that our city has basic core services met, right? That we're not a city with a high crime rate, right? That's going to detract people and employers from coming here. That we're a well-functioning and well-run city, so that businesses and great universities do look to San Antonio as a place to be.
Great answer. And the infrastructure piece, broadband, and just, for a state that's growing 1,500 or so people a day and adding a town every month, it's very important. Your workforce comment, right on the mark, and I appreciate your comments also about making sure we're getting women into the STEM fields. I say that as a girl dad, 3 daughters.
Yeah.
So thank you. You're a great role model as well. Carlos, the cross-border trade. I know the governor, your team, Emmanuel Liu, you guys do a terrific job spending a lot of time in San Antonio, Austin, and the state of Texas. Would love, you can take your opening remarks any way you want, but just how the collaboration, why Tech de Monterrey, great school. Your thoughts on how we can, how this has been a win-win relationship for Nuevo Leon.
Sure. Thank you, Glenn, for the question. It's a privilege to, be a panel partner with Luis and Marina. So I really have a lot of comments about that. I can say that, for example, in this administration, in the past 3 years, we have invested a lot of, millions of pesos in making our Colombia port, which is our border access to Texas. It's one of the most efficient in the country. The crossing is actually really agile. So when it comes to that specific matter, I think that we've invested a lot in infrastructure that takes not just the products of Nuevo Leon to our crossing, but also products from all around the country, So I think that makes us a very important ally when it comes to infrastructure, yes, of course, but also, a supply chain that has a very agile process of coming into your state. And one of the things we've been investing a lot of time and money also is innovation and tech companies. And the reason for this, we have this tariff conjecture right now, but the thing is, tech, software, remote work, that has no tariffs. So it's a nice bet for us, it's a nice bet for our community to, impulse and give a little bit of trust to all that, innovation ecosystem. Like you said, our universities are very connected, not just the Tec de Monterrey, but UDEM, our autonomous university, our state university of Nuevo Leon, which, by the way, is opening an office in Bronzeville, and I have to say that we also have an aerospace cluster. We have a lot of aerospace industry suppliers for SpaceX and many other companies. So that's also one way in which we are dealing with innovation, right? Putting our boots right on the ground on the new SpaceX base that you have in Bronzeville. And I guess that just gives us, a more dynamic relationship when it comes to that industry, especially because, like I said, it's all connected, academic, the same as our industrial corridor and border crossing. So I guess that will be my principal remark. We are investing really, really hard and really, really, enthusiastically on our relationship with Texas. Bettering our infrastructure for once, and in the second aspect, our education ecosystem. All of our universities have collaborations here, and like I said, our state university is doing that on Bronzeville. So what can I say? Pretty much, as you have mentioned, that we are very important partners, and we realize that. We realize that our state specifically has a lot of capital that moves around the two countries. So the best bet our governor thought, and I think he's absolutely right, is investing in that infrastructure, fomenting that, promoting that education, and of course investing in programs that will develop our tech industry, because in the end, it's a technology is just a wonder when it comes, when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to whatever, how can I say this, legal or political circumstance that they might exist, tech just flies through that,
Well,
you know?
Yeah, and
So-
you can't tariff a great idea.
That's true.
And you brought, want to just, for the audience to understand, because we had about 100 to 150 entrepreneurs and small businesses and tech folks from Monterey and Nuevo Leon in our office over the weekend. And what's the goat dish called?
Cabrito,
Cabrito.
cabrito.
I had a few too many. So good, so good. I have to do a lot of steps later. But I want you to explain that a little bit, what they got out. They came here for South by Southwest and some of the other things, the size of the delegation. And then when you close for this segment, you have a great trade show next week
Yes.
that Thomas Michael Hogg and some others are working on. Just, I'll give you a little commercial there because I'll be flying out of San Antonio to Monterey, I think next Tuesday.
Okay. So first of all, thank you. And if you, I'm gonna, get ahead a little bit. If you all want to go to the festival, if you follow us on Instagram, I can give you a ticket, for free. that would be awesome.
12,000 people.
for all. We have less than that, but let's just, make it the first in order. But that being said, so yeah, we did came to South by Southwest was really like more of an incentive for our startups that came with us to compete in the dynamics we had for the giveaway of the tickets. It's important to say the Capital Factory had a round of pitches. One of our companies, actually one of the delegation, was the first place. So I think that's very, very important to to stand out. They dedicated themselves to enterprise education. So I guess it's it says a lot, the fact that they won regarding all the knowledge and all that and all this exchange of information and knowledge between our states. I think that says a lot. And I gotta say, I mean, I've never been before to South by Southwest as a festival. I mean, besides the cultural part, which is really awesome, the tech part, the part in which this community of not just the startups but also capitals and venture capitals and fundings, I guess that shows and gives us as a state the incentive to keep working with the state of Texas, because we're talking across many chambers and many organizations that supported this for us, that organized this for us as well, that allow our companies and our startups to participate in these pitch rounds. So I believe that itself says a lot about how our tech community coincides with yours. And personally, what I've seen so far, it's always a lot of friendship, a lot of community. It's a community-based dynamic, really. So I think that's very important. Our festival, Inc. Monterrey, this is its 14th year. It's going to be the largest edition yet. It's going to be for 3 days, and it's going to run from March 18 to March 20. And it's the largest edition, not just exposition-wise, but also audience-wise. And for many years, this event has captured a lot of seed funding, a lot of scale-up funding. Many people and many startups and unicorns in Mexico have made their stand there and grow afterwards. So this year, what we're doing in Inc. is having a very heavy involvement with Texas as a partner state of the event. And like I said, this is a very important dynamic in the sense that I'll go back to what I said earlier. Technology really has no borders. Technology has no tariffs. So we know and we share the vision of your state. You want to be the innovation hub in the world. I think that you already are. And that's exactly what we want to be in Mexico. So this partnership takes a lot of relevance because Inc. Monterrey is not just about Monterrey, it's about the whole nation. Our whole national entrepreneurship and tech community gathers there. And I think it's very important for our nation community to see specifically the relationship that we have with the Texas tech community.
Well, and I'll just say, with the councilwoman's background, if you switch her out with me, you get a huge upgrade for next week. And where I wanted, Councilwoman, here we are in the place where NAFTA was signed, and now we have a U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. And Luis, we're going to go into tariffs hard, starting with you. But wanted to get your thoughts when you hear about the technology, the small businesses, the regional dynamics of doing more with our neighbors, Nuevo Leon and Coahuila, particularly in this area. Would love your thoughts on how this collaboration could benefit San Antonio and the state of Texas.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I think from where I sit, San Antonio needs to capitalize on this, right? We need to capitalize and make sure that we have great partnerships, both in Texas and in Mexico. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce, Luis and Juan Antonio, do a great job of making sure there is that partnership and they continue that partnership, so we're not just going cold over there and saying, hey, what can you do for me, right? And so San Antonio needs to foster those relationships, but also too, from an infrastructure perspective, we need to make sure that we're accommodating that from an actual infrastructure perspective, but also workforce perspective. There was one thing that Carlos mentioned, right? Like, you can't tariff a good idea. And one of the other things too, I think that's extremely important for San Antonio in particular, is that, unfortunately, San Antonio still has a high poverty rate. And I always thought of coding and programming as a great equalizer, right? Not everybody can afford to go to a UTSA or a St. Mary's University or other universities. But if they can learn to code, and you could do that at your house, of course, assuming they have internet, then you can get a pretty good job being a developer, being a programmer, going into these tech companies and working your way up. And so that's why it was always so important for me to make sure that young women and girls had that opportunity to learn how to code, to make a place for themselves in the workforce. And of course, yes, while we would love everybody to be able to graduate from a four-year institution, it's also not the reality in San Antonio, right? I mean, we do have a high poverty rate we have to contend with. And so I love that about coding, is that you can make a name for yourself and you can grow into that career, not necessarily having that degree. You could get the degree later when you're making money, but I think that that's an important piece.
And Councilwoman, you touched on something that's super important, brought together chambers all across the state and economic development corporations. This last regular session, HB8, which was a bill to provide $65 million of new funding connected to skills for great community colleges, as well as to beef up dual enrollment. So students in our high schools are getting also credentials of values and certificates, and they could earn while they learn,
right?
So to speak.
Absolutely.
So Luis, it sounded like instead of last Tuesday being Taco Tuesday, it was Tariff Tuesday, unfortunately. You're in with the ambassador from Mexico, and I want to thank our distinguished Consul General for being here. I was with my good friend, the Consul General Hernandez in Austin yesterday with a representative from the Consul General's office in Canada, and the trade evangelist, the great Jerry Schwebel from IBC Bank, talking about trade and tariffs, and would love whatever inside information you have and your view as to where this is going and how we should set our policy so that it best reflects the needs of the Texas economy.
Yeah, no, thanks, Clint. Our meeting with the ambassador last Tuesday, I think, showed one that I think we've seen with the president of Mexico. It's calm and steady. It seems as when the tariffs were announced, President Claudia Sheinbaum mentioned that she would give her remarks that following Sunday, and we were fortunate enough to meet with the ambassador. He too had that cool and calm posture, because as he shared, the United States is not as successful without a great partnership and ally in Mexico, and Mexico feels they're not going to be as great as they can be without that partnership and ally in the United States. And here at the local level, I mentioned Toyota, and we built Sequoias and Tundras here, and there's a lot of Tier 1 Toyota suppliers that are Hispanic business entrepreneurs, women. The first woman ever Tier 1 Toyota supplier is from here in San Antonio, Texas, Rosa from Forma Automotive, and their reach and what they're building in Mexico as well is that partnership that truly shows positive economic development. And to touch on what Councilmember Marina shared, if the price of automobiles and others goes too high, people would just, and people's income doesn't keep up with it, right? Well, people will stop buying products. And since products are not being sold, people aren't going to be needed to manufacture them. So it's kind of a reverse economics per se, instead of the trajectory that we'd like to continue on as well. And then not to get off tariffs, but I do want to share with, and when Marina was at Tech Block and brought that to downtown San Antonio and abroad. Many of, I don't know folks though, but I used to be the CEO of the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, was there for 3 years. And I got the itch to come back to San Antonio to launch my own tech startup, a modern managed IT, where through the wonderful folks at Geekdom, through Geekdom Fund, we learned how to raise $1.8 million in venture capital and launched a great tech company that's doing better since I've left, right? Because they put
set the stage.
smarter, but you know, part of our success is we had a great partnership with Guadalajara because we started picking up more bilingual customers as well. And we were able to get nearshoring in Guadalajara and Monterrey, quality colleagues across the border who were providing exceptional services to our customers as we branched out into Latin America as well. So when you think about small business, and you know, Modern Managed IT is still a small business. They employ under 15 folks, but they have over 1,200 customers worldwide. But that strategic partnership and a lot of those partnerships, Glenn, were created when I worked at the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because for years, when AJ Rodriguez was the former president and CEO of the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to Ramiro, we've always had a consistency of ensuring, as council member you shared, that the relationships with Mexico remain strong and ongoing.
Well, Luis, you hit on a number of important themes there, and one is the small business part. And we consider, where we agree with President Trump, is that the USMCA is the best trade deal ever negotiated. It had some cutting edge provisions, including the first trade deal in the U.S. history that had a small and medium enterprise section. Every member of the congressional delegation in Texas voted for it. That was in office at the time. It was that popular, and you know, and it's been spectacularly successful. How successful has it been? Before the agreement, China was our top trading partner. It's now, for the U.S., it's now slipped to number 3. Mexico is number 1. Canada is number 2. That's good for our economic and national security. And the relationship between Texas and Canada and Texas and Mexico is at an all-time high. Mexico is far and away the top trading partner for Texas. So Texas also, as the top export state, we have more to win with trade and we have more to lose. You know, we've talked about the port of San Antonio. You know, we've got a lot of other ports. We've got about a minute left, so we're going to do a speed round. Councilwoman, I just love your background. Why don't you take us home?
Well, thanks. That's a question. No, well, thank you so much for y'all's time today. I think that one of the things that we all touched on is obviously investing in our workforce. I mean, again, like Carlos, you mentioned, you know, you can't tariff a good idea. And so we have to double down on our partnerships. We have to double down on our collaboration. We have to make sure that San Antonio continues to be an exciting place for this creative class of workers, that we have top tier institutions like UTSA and others, and that, you know, that San Antonio is doing our part in fostering these relationships and bringing people here.
San Antonio is so fortunate to have you in the position you're in. Luis, you are a great leader. Luis also chairs the Hispanic Chamber Network across the state of Texas, does a marvelous job. Carlos, Emmanuel, and Governor Garcia, you guys do a terrific job. We appreciate your love for Texas. I wanted just to give my cell phone out, because one of the things in terms of collaboration is we do need to have a united front when it comes to protecting Texas, Canada, and Mexico from tariffs. We want to see tariff-free trade. It's patriotic, and we know the let's face it, I'm just going to get right to it. A 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada would cause havoc in the auto industry, destroy other supply chains and consumer electronics. And I won't say it's as important, but dramatically increase the cost of my avocado toast And the tequila, I enjoy now more of it at night. So I'm going to give my cell phone out. It's Glenn Hammer. Usually I close things by questions, comments, and insults. You can text me any of those and I'll respond. Glenn Hammer, 737-336-6590, 737-336-6590. Rod, thank you. Love what USDA is doing. Couldn't be more timely. And everyone in the Texas business community thinks the world of this institution. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.